Good evening. This is Tuesday, and it's 8:02. This is Traffic and Safety Commission, and we're going to start off with a roll call.
Cuthbertson.
Yes.
DiTomaso.
Yes.
Flaskamp.
Yes.
Little.
Yes.
McMurray. Carl Timmerman.
Here.
Karen Timmerman. Wagner. Chairman Pinkos.
Here. Okay, before we go any further, after the roll call here, we do have a new commissioner today, Tricia Little. She's down at the end. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Tricia.
Okay, so we're adding on to our commission to get to full capacity here. So, thank you and welcome. Okay, we're going with amendments to the agenda. Does anybody have amendments? Okay, I do. Okay. We have an issue that's being brought up as new business in reference to the situation at North Avenue by Strat's Food. And we have Deputy Chief McCann here and Sergeant Landa. Welcome, thank you. And because they're here and we don't want to detain them too long and put them back out on duty for us, I would like to, after we go through public comments and agenda and non-public comments on non-agenda items, I'd like to move right into this item and start talking about it and go from that point there. Do we have anybody objecting in reference to this?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. With that, we have a new. I'm just found out about this for less than 24 hours, so I'm kind of new at this. But evidently, there was an issue, possibly last Saturday, up there at Strat's on North Avenue with many vehicles, I guess, being involved. I don't know what that status is, but we do have a video, Kevin. Is that correct?
We do, and Deputy Chief McCann, I'll defer to you as to whether you want us to watch that video or whether you'd like to say some words first or whatever your prerogative is.
The Strat's issue is something that's been going on for almost 15 years. But every year it gets worse and worse with the crowds, especially now with the car shows being more popular than young people. So the last couple of years, the shows have gotten so big where in order to accommodate all the parking, they basically take over all the surrounding lots. You know, Stray Lobster, the Range, the auto store, Target, they've even gotten as far as North Park Mall. And on the Elmhurst side, they've gone as far as Route 83. So it takes up a lot of our resources when we've got anywhere from 500 to 1,000 cars coming in and out of that lot and hanging out in the areas and parking, crossing the street. So more recently, the crowds are kind of taking over the parkways, so you've got, you know, hundreds of kids, you know, on the curb lane, in the middle median, running back and forth across the street on North Avenue while there's cars racing and motorcycles doing, you know, wheelies, spin outs and all types of things. So, you know, we get obviously a number of complaints, also from the residents behind Strat's. A lot of the cars, you know, they have these loud mufflers that make the firecracker noises, stuff like that. So that's going on all the way until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So this year we took a little bit more of an approach on it, a little different approach. In past years, there has been some civil notices that have been sent on with some agreements that he was supposed to follow. That was back in 2021 or late 2020. So he had agreed at that time to have fencing, to have 4 security officers out there during the events, You know, a list of rules as far as revving up your engines and having loud mufflers and doing spin outs in the lot or around the restaurant. So that was enforced for a little while, but, it's really just gone back to the way it was. It's becoming worse. So, so far this year, for the few nice days we had, going back, I think 3 weekends ago, we did have a massive gathering event where the cars took over all the parking lots up and down, all the way from Villa to North Avenue. We were getting 911 call complaints from a lot of the businesses and cars moved. Because, you know, some of them that are closed, even though the business is closed, they leave behind garbage, alcohol, damage on property. And then obviously the businesses that are open, you know, none of their customers can come into it. There's no other park because it's taken over. So for us though, the problem is we respond over there, we can pick them all on the lot. When we leave, it only takes about 15 minutes and it's all filled up again. So there's been numerous, and I can't even count how many over the last several years, where our whole entire shift is dealing with Strat's traffic from the car show events. And there's times there's calls, and we handle calls, and it just goes unmanned, and it just is what it is at that point. So this year, though, with taking over the medians and having all these kids in the curb line, and we've had some accidents. We just had not sure if it's related to Strats or not, but we just had a fatal motorcycle accident last weekend. Wow. So we also had a fatal motorcycle accident last year or the year before. That was a car that was leaving Strats, and most likely motorcycles that were going to Strats. Not directly related to him, but his business is what's drawing the attention for everybody to come there. Sometimes he's cooperative with these, sometimes he's not. So, this last weekend and 2 weekends ago, when the crowds got so big that, you know, there was too good of a chance of somebody getting hit on North Avenue. So we closed down his event and made him leave. This last Saturday, it was so big with so many people in the meeting, we had to close down North Avenue to shut it down. Because we can't disperse hundreds of kids in the roadway with all the traffic coming up and down, especially when a lot of the cars are speeding and taking off on the officers. I mean, you name it, it's a lot of dangerous situations. So we did shut it down. Strat was talked to and agreed to shut it down, but he was already pretty far into it already. So with that resources, we had to call, because there's so many people and you need somebody to shut down the roadway. So many officers go to every single lot to, get everybody to move. We had Addison, Lombard, Oak Brook, Oak Brook Terrace, Elmhurst, I think Downers Grove, and might even be missing a town in there. We had about 6 or 7 other agencies that had to send officers to assist us just to get everything cleared out. And that was just before 10 o'clock at night. So what we've been proposing, a lot of our ordinances are just not, and we have some ordinances that have nuisance complaints, and we have our special event permit, but, in our opinion, when you read our special event permit process, it's really geared towards events that happen on public property. A block party, a carnival that may require public parking, you name it, whatever could happen in the town. The initial wording says any event in Villa Park. However, when you read it further, when you're reading here the amended one, but if you read the original one, it really talks about stuff that's on public property. We rarely deal with an event that's on private property that is affecting or interfering everything around it, including other businesses, sidewalks, parkways, roadways. So what we asked the attorney to do is put a little bit more language in there to define if you are going to have an event that's going to affect public property or other people's property, then you need to have a permit like any other event in town. So when we looked at this, people get permits for all kinds of things. Wildfire gets a permit for motorcycle shows. You have block parties, you have 5K races. So all these other events are getting permits, and they're required to hire police officers to manage the event. However, Strats is the biggest event in town every weekend, and they don't get permits. And part of it is because, some of the language is hard to, hard to enforce. So all we're really asking at this point, is to take a review of the amended ordinance. She put stronger language in there about an event on private property that's going to affect other people's properties or public property. And then there's already a part in there that talks about hiring police, having barricades, porta potties, fencing, all that stuff's in there already. So just adding that language makes it stronger. So with that, we would serve him, once this is approved, we would serve him notice that, hey, even though you say you're not having events, it's been going on for 15 years, every Friday and Saturday. So you pretty much know there's going to be an event here, so you need to take these steps to make it safe. The first thing's going to be you need to hire a couple police officers, so the officers can manage, one, his line of safety, keep people off the parkways, keep people off the medians, keep people from crossing on North Avenue, there's traffic going on, and then also manage the surrounding area where they're not taking over everybody's businesses. And there's also one other section in there, that was brought up about whether or not you get an emergency vehicle to the back of Strats if you need it, an ambulance or fire truck even. On anybody that's seen the events, that's impossible. There's no way you're getting in there anytime quickly because there's usually a line waiting to go through. So another part that's part of the nuisance part, and I believe you put it in the permit part as well, is that you basically have to have a clear path for emergency vehicles, requiring the owner to make sure he has that in a private parking lot. A private parking lot that's open to the public, even. So all these parking lots we're talking about are open to the public. Or at least his lot is open to the public, so that's how they're looking at trying to regulate what happens there every weekend. So the outcome of this would be is, one, you could be denied the permit and not have the event at all if the village decides to do that, or if they do issue a permit, most likely the restrictions are going to be you need to have fencing to keep people away from the road. You need to hire police officers to be at this event to make sure all those safety considerations are being followed. And then, whatever the village manager or the board deems, whatever else is necessary. Might include barricades, blocking off other areas. They have that leverage once the permit is applied for. And if he doesn't apply for a permit, then, he would get notice that he could be fined. So, that's pretty much it.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, so Deputy Chief McCann, I remember a number of years ago, this issue came before this commission, and this is when Chief Lay was chief, and I think we restricted parking on Ellsworth,
Yeah.
and we also did some restrictions in the parking lots around Strats. And I thought that we required, and I can't pronounce his whole name, but I'm going to call him Strat, that he have some security on hand. Is that not the case any longer?
Well, to some extent, he has been hiring 2 security officers. That agreement is called for 4. But the security only work on his lot, so they're not going to do anything for the lots around them. And you're right, part of this ordinance in here, the nuisance part, is the part that we passed a few years ago. The only problem is, and in all honesty, it does say that we could cite people parking in one lot to go to a different lot, different event. But, and we're talking hundreds of cars. I mean, we could cite them and then leave it, and they're gonna have, as soon as we tell them all to get lost, we drive away 15 minutes later, it's filled up. And, that's one thing, like Crazy Pour, they complained, they were hiring a tow truck driver to sit at the front and basically, look to see who's coming in their lot, because it only takes literally 10 minutes and the lot's filled. I mean, you can see on the video, well, I'm not sure what video you guys are here with, that's a YouTube video, but on our poll camera videos, you can see the backup all the way down. So as soon as there's an opening in the lot, they're all going in. You know, and here, a lot of these kids, they're not, most of them are not there to cause any problems, you know, and most of them do behave, but they're there for the show. And then you've got the small percentage that are speeding up and down North Avenue, and then the mufflers and all that stuff is pretty much a good majority of them, but there has been serious incidents there too. You know, we've had fights involving firearm, one time, we had, you know, a number of times there's been fights, or we have had accidents there where they peel out, coming out and hit the median and crash into the middle center median there. So there, I mean, there's a lot of calls and incidents and arrests and lots of citations that have been issued. But we can write all the citations we want, the same crowd, I mean, they're gonna come back the next weekend, so. You know, so our thought is if at least we can have him get this permit and hire police officers, and they're there all day, or not all day, but, you know, during the whole event, we can have someone monitoring these lots and shuffle, you know, getting them out of there before it even starts, you know. It may not solve the problem with all the traffic on North Avenue up and down, but the whole idea of every weekend, our entire shift being down there is not acceptable. And I don't think any of us would agree that your whole police department should be at one spot on a Friday night, you know, leaving the rest of the town, you know, empty of any patrol, unless there's calls and they have to leave. But, and like I said, that happens very often where the shift is busy, and there's just no police down there. It's basically a free-for-all. There's racing, and, you know, the people are just all over, and it just kind of just is what it is, because we only have so many cars out there.
If you have another incident that comes up while Strats is going on, what do you guys do? Say a domestic battery down here?
Yeah, we just break it, just leave Strats and go. The calls gotta come first.
Yeah.
Calls are most important. And, I mean, the officers are down there to try to, you know, and we're not assigning them there all the time, but when we start getting, you know, above 500, 600 cars, and then all the businesses start calling. So, you know, we're forced to go down there because we're getting 911 calls down there too. We got people on our property, we run them off the property, they're damaging things, you know, or harassing customers that are coming into the businesses. So, yeah, we're just playing the game of handling the calls that are out there and then trying to handle Strats at the same time. You know, but like I said, any other event in town would be required to have officers working in. I mean, we have a simple 5K race, and we got 6, 7 officers working in. These people have to pay for those officers to work these events, but yet his event's bigger than anything we have in this town. You know, other than maybe Summerfest, and that might be close. The election might get more people in Summerfest, to be honest with you. And you think about Summerfest, we've got sometimes 10 officers working here. You know, there's no requirement for him to hire anybody currently, and he's not gonna volunteer to do it. So, yeah, he has security, but security can only do so much. They can't monitor the area, they can't do anything on a public roadway, they can't pull anybody over, and they really, it's limited on what they can do. They can try to control his lot, but as you can see in the videos, it's not controlled. I mean, it's a big lot. People are blowing off their muffler bombs, or whatever you wanna call these things, in the back of the lot. I mean, you can hear them at the police station there. So that's where we're at. That's what we have in front of you, is some amendments. It's really not drastic. There's just some extra language in there that we feel will cover us better if we want to write him citations for not having a permit. He will be warned ahead of time that he needs to apply for the permit. So it's not like we're just going to go there and say, hey, you know, we can't do this. We're going to let him know that, hey, you know, your event is this type of event that will require a permit, and you need to go ahead and apply for it and go through the process like everybody else in town that wants the event.
I have 2 questions. The first one, real quick, you keep saying kids. Do you mean minor children, or do you just mean adults who are younger than me?
Well, it's all ages. I mean, when we cleared it out the other week, or over the weekend, we had some kids staying a week with their parents to pick them up, so. Yeah, but then you got adults there, you got, you know, it's really all ages. The majority's probably 18 to, let's say, 25, somewhere in there. You know, probably more on the younger side.
Okay.
You know, so just a lot of kids have got nothing to do, and that's the place to be, I guess. But But unfortunately, he doesn't have the space to hold these events.
Okay, in principle, I'm very much in favor. Large events with 500 cars, yeah, absolutely. They should have officer presence to direct traffic and make sure that people are parking in places that have agreed to have cars parked there. Absolutely. In principle, I'm in favor of that. I'm a little bit worried that, like, when we say, like, if there's gonna need to be vehicles standing in excess of the space allocated to the property, if that means I'm having a graduation party for my child at my house and we've got cars parked the entire way down the block, am I going to have police presence now at my home saying I should have applied for a permit and hired an officer for a party I'm hosting at my home?
Well, that is more focused for the traffic backup on North Ave.
Right, I understand that, but the issue that I'm a little bit concerned about is, you know, if you've got a neighbor who likes to complain, if you've got a neighbor who has it in for you, are you going to wind up afoul of this ordinance hosting a gathering at your home if you have more people than can fit on your driveway? I mean, I've had a neighbor who's like, you're parked in the spot that I like to park, and therefore I am calling the police on your car when it's parked on the street, you know?
Well, in this ordinance, right before the nuisance ordinance, that part, you know, the whole ordinance here, but right before it talks about property owners with businesses, and how businesses that have parking lots that are open to the public have more things that they need to monitor and make sure that they manage. I mean, a house at a party would not fit this. I mean, we would, you know, and even if, let's say for some crazy reason they said it did, in order to cite someone for the permit process, basically it's gotta happen a couple times, and then we will send a notice to abate, which gives them 48 hours to fix the problem.
Okay.
So your party would be over by the time, you know what I mean? But in this situation, we know this is gonna happen. It's gonna if it's warm this Friday, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen on Saturday. So this has been an ongoing thing, and that's why we would say, hey, you need to have a permit. You're having a public event that's on your property. So yeah, it really wouldn't apply to a house. And, yeah, like I said, worst case scenario, it really couldn't, because you would just get a notice to say, hey, fix this in 48 hours. But by the time you get the notice, your graduation party will be over.
Okay.
So,
If I may follow up with her question on that, and specifically that question. So what you're saying is this ordinance really wouldn't be used against a resident?
I guess what?
This ordinance would not be used against a resident?
It's not intended for this.
That's what I'm saying, but
Okay.
it's not intended, but could it be used that way?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that about a lot of the ordinances. I mean, that's not the intent of the ordinance. I think just by having that paragraph in there that talks about business owners and public parking, you know, that you're private residents, you have
I get
no
that.
private parking. It's not open to the public.
Right.
So I don't think this would apply. This is really events on private property that would affect other streets, you know, a party at your house is,
Sure.
Okay.
yeah. It's not the intention of this at all.
So what
What
I hear you
excuse me.
saying is that this applies to businesses, not to residents.
That's the intention of the
Okay.
ordinance. Yeah, that's what it always has been. Only the closest I can say that anybody was ever required to get a permit is for a block party, but you're taking over the street, putting
Right.
barricades up. So,
My statement is, right now, is this is amending or going to amend an ordinance that's already in place.
right.
Okay,
Just
so
make
that
sure.
covers what you're talking about. There's one already in place. Now, I don't know how that all reads to answer your question. So that's where I'm kind of in the situation, we're asking some questions that we're only seeing a part of this ordinance. Okay? So I'm kind of just drilling in reference to how you brought that up about parties and stuff like that. See where that goes. And Carl, that's what I'm saying. We only got a portion of it. I don't know how big this, just the regular ordinance is, and this is being amended to it, but I would say to answer this and look at this, we should also look at the whole ordinance so that we can end up thinking about this correctly. Now, out of that, in reference to that, and I'm just glancing through here, but I know how you're talking about having police officers there, and somewhere in this amendment is where it's being that is being stated, am I correct?
That's already, yeah, it's in there, but it's not in the amended section. That language is already in the.
But that's already in there.
And when you said the whole ordinance, the only thing you can't see here is one paragraph that says that businesses are responsible for the public parking. So, I mean, here in a residence, you wouldn't even apply for a permit. You wouldn't apply for a permit for graduation or party, and the village would never even ask. So, and like I said, even with Stratz, with this big event that we know should be permit required, we're still gonna notify him first and say, hey, we know what your event is, it's been going on for 15 years, you need to get a permit. So, I mean, for that to happen in a residence, it's just not even, it's not practical, it's, you know.
Okay. Bob, you had your hand up.
Yes, so I know in the past that there have been meetings here at Village Hall, and, sit down with him to say, how do we control this? Have we had a meeting with him to say, okay, this is out of control again, what are you going to do? Has he offered any suggestions? And it's just a footnote, I heard a number of years ago that he had planned on selling the business,
There's, I don't know, if there's any confirmation, but supposedly the business is being sold. But I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we should, just keep allowing this to happen. I thought that he might be going in September.
Relate to this
We have the manager
And
recently talked to him.
settlement agreement.
So on
and release.
Saturday, when we had this major issue, that day, we talked to him prior.
with
and he said he
Stratz.
canceled it.
He canceled it, but it occurred anyhow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and he'll say he can't control it. And I mean, here, the events have been going on there for easily 15 years. I mean, at some point, you're having an event or something. And not only that, he has, he agreed to have signs with rules and all that. Well, if you've got signs with rules and stuff you have to follow and you have security there, well, it's pretty obvious there's an event there.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
And in our package that we have here towards the back of it, we do have the discussion memorandum in reference to what the board did on March 25th. Oh, wait, that's, but anyways, there has been some type of settlement agreement and release
That was 2020.
2020.
in 2020, which he is not abiding by at the moment.
At the moment, not to the extent that we have no fencing. We only had 2 security, not 4. As far as controlling the noise in there with the revving engines, that was happening all night. The backup on North Avenue occurred. At some point, the security was helping a little bit with that when I think they knew that we were going to close the lockdown. So he's doing some of it, but he's not doing it.
And we are not, and again, I haven't read this totally through at the moment, but I'm looking for a paraphrase from you at the moment. We are not asking, we never asked him for getting a permit in our original agreement here.
No, he's never been asked to get a permit because we didn't feel the language was strong enough in the permit statute.
Okay. And at the moment now, we had our lawyers, the village lawyer, look at this, and in blue is what she would like to add to this.
And this, now, we had a different village attorney back then. This village attorney, in her opinion, she thinks that we can enforce the ordinance as is. But we did bring up the issues that we have, that were brought up before, and she agreed that we'll make it stronger. And, instead of just having a line that's kind of open, she put more detail in there, so everybody can understand. The way it was before, we just didn't feel that it had the proper wording for private property. We didn't think that was the intention. Even though there's businesses that, like I said, Wildfire has motorcycle shows, they apply for a permit. Really, it's the same thing that Strat's doing, but he doesn't get, nowhere near the crowd that he does. And they hire a couple officers for traffic control. So, yeah, I mean, who knows, this isn't only for him, I mean, the next business that comes in and wants to do the same thing, or some other type of mass gathering, we'll have an ordinance in place that's stronger to regulate it.
Okay, Vicky?
So, I have a few questions. So, my concern is with this is like, how far does this apply? Who decides what the event is that may need this, that you may need to apply for a permit, so to speak? For instance, you have, I'm just gonna throw out there, another bar in town, I'm just gonna throw out there, Stolden's, whatever, we're gonna have a band. Do they now have to apply for a permit? Because they don't know. We don't know if they're gonna have to have that. I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, I mean, what's gonna do, who decides what's gonna need a permit, what's not gonna need a permit? Then, what decides, what constitutes an event? How is the event advertised? My understanding is that Stratz does not really advertise an event. I mean, you're starting to get into a little gray area where you might start to say, is there, isn't there? I'm just trying to say, you can't poke holes in it, so to speak, when you start looking at it, and just trying to, make sure that we get something that is going to be enforceable, so
Well,
to speak.
instead of naming the type of events, it's really spelled out there. It's really any event that's gonna affect the public property, the public way, other people's properties.
Like, he may just say, I'm just doing business. I'm doing
Yeah.
regular business.
It-
I'm just open for business.
That is what he's gonna say. He's been saying that for a long time.
Yeah, so how do you say it's an event?
That's up to the village to say, hey, we're considering this event, and if it gets cited, that'll be up to the hearing officer to decide that.
Interesting.
But when you watch the videos and you see all the activity, I mean, you get hundreds of people there.
Yeah.
So, but that would be up to the hearing officer to decide that.
If it was,
That's what I'm saying,
if it was a one-time thing that just all these people happen to show up, that'd be one thing, but when it's happening twice a week, every week for years, it's kinda hard to say, gee, I don't know anything about this, they just all show up.
right, but I mean, it's more of a,
Yeah,
So,
you're really starting to say, like, who decides? It's a judgment, you know what I mean? It's-
Well, that's current,
Kind of,
that's
yeah.
currently right now.
Right.
Events that are applied for. Because you can name, carnivals or block parties, and I think some are named, but for the most part, I think it's a little common sense.
No, I'm not saying that it's not common sense. No, I'm not saying that at all, by any means. I'm just saying that people can come up there and say, like, this is not really an event. I'm just open for business.
Yeah.
These people show up. What am I supposed to do?
You're right.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not advertising an event.
If that was to happen at a different location,
Mm-hmm.
it would take a few of those events to happen
Sure.
before we could say, okay, this has happened 3 times now.
Right.
You know what this is, and for Stratz, it's been 15 years, so, really bad for the last several years.
Right.
And worse the last 2 or 3 years. So it's pretty clear with him, but you're right, another business might have something and might get questioned.
Right, I mean,
But the way this part is worded, we can't write the citation until they're delivered a notice to fix the problem. So they've got 48 hours to fix the problem. So if a bar has one of those events, the manager can say, hey, I want the notice to go to them to fix the issue. Well, as we mentioned, they got 48 hours to fix it, but the event's over today.
Right.
Now, if we know the event's gonna happen again, because we're seeing it through social media or word of mouth, we can always serve it, 48 hours ahead and say, hey, we heard you having this event. We know last time you had 1,000 people and it was, blocking all the roads. We're gonna serve you now and say, hey, we need this permit. But in all reality, if it was a business, we'd probably just go there and tell them, hey, next time apply for a permit and, get some officers to help you out. And we're there to, help the businesses out any way we can. We're not against having events and stuff.
right. And then, what are the fines? I mean, it doesn't state, did I
Well,
miss
this is
it?
a regular ordinance, so it could be anywhere, I believe it's up to $750, it'll be up to the hearing officer. So there's not a set fine for this one. So it's one they have to appear in front of the hearing officer and determine how long the offense is. But, going back to when we did do the civil agreement before, remember that we had all these businesses came to the court meeting, so. And even that was probably.
Because it was $2,000 for the violations set forth in the citation.
Yeah, and that was an agreement, it was actually a lot more than that.
Okay.
And they gave an agreed amount to hopefully fix the problem, which worked temporarily, but.
And what would be the cost of a permit for this type of event? For having the officers there and so forth?
Hey, that's a good question. I think there's $75. I'm
You
pretty
have how many
sure.
officers there? And you would have how many officers
Well,
there?
they're gonna pay for that stuff.
It's
So what
separate.
would be the cost for that?
Oh, the permit I think is $75 just to file with the village. I'm almost positive. So Kevin, you know that for sure?
I don't, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure it's 75. And in the permit process, there's some wording in there, but on our website, police department website, we have a spot in there that says hire a police officer for your event. Basically, they pay the highest overtime rate that it could be. So we take a sergeant's rate at the top senior sergeant, and that's what the rate is, what they pay. So I think right now it's right around $85 an hour. So that way it's always covered. There's a little take or give there because if new officers get hired, they might not quite make that amount in overtime. But we also consider the fact that we're having a squad car go there, we're using gas. So at the end of the day, it evens out, so.
And then how many hours would you say that you would have officers there?
Well, I mean, for a Strats event, probably from 7 to, probably 7 to midnight, maybe longer. Another part that's not in here that we're gonna mention, well, I have to ask our attorney, because another thing that we wanna do is say, hey, we're gonna issue a permit, but your event's gotta be over at 10:30 at night. You can't stay up and wake stay with the event and wake the whole neighborhood up. At some point, people should be able to go to sleep. So, and that's where a lot of our complaints come in, whether it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, whatever it might be. But I think that would be part of the actual approval process of the permit. I'm not giving you a permit unless you restrict how long you're gonna go, because this events will go all night if we don't, tell them to knock it off.
You would hope most of those kids are under, around 18 to get home. Because what time are they open till on the weekends at
I
midnight?
think 2.
He's
Well,
open till
he
2?
was open till midnight, but then he leaves the show go until 2. But then when we were there watching him a couple times, it looked to us that the restaurant was open. And he can be open, he does not have a liquor license.
Okay.
So there's no restrictions there. He had to give that up back when we were doing it in 2020.
So I'm not really good at math, but I got my calculator out, and $85 times 4 hours is $340. But you're saying they would need to have like 4 officers to be able to control traffic and parking lots around the area. So it's cheaper by about half to just violate the thing and pay the fine than it is to, file the permit and hire the officers.
Well, that depends, because we would probably require 2 officers, to be honest with you. It would be hard for us to staff 2 officers. But 2 officers would probably be able to do it, to be 1 on his lot, and then 1 monitoring the surrounding areas. And if the officers are there with their lights on or whatever else, I mean, it's probably gonna help fix the problem. I think 2 officers would be fine. But in all reality, it's probably how we get staffed, to be honest with you. And the other thing you mentioned, I forgot what the other thing is you mentioned.
Oh no, I was just doing math. Like then the permit, like if the fine for not getting the permit is $750, but having a police officer there for 4 hours times $85 is $340. So 2 officers times $340 makes $680 plus $75 for filing the fee, right? Like you're already at the cost of the fine.
True.
I have one question in reference to that, but Bob, I know you've been trying to say something, so do you want to go first?
So is there an expectation that the commission would provide a recommendation this evening?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Bring it for the next board meeting, because
The next board meeting is this coming Monday.
8th, right? I think it's 8th, yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll see this next weekend, I think it's supposed to be like 60 degrees, so
2040.
it'll probably be very busy again.
So my comment is, I'm just seeing this for the first time.
Well, yeah, that's.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be a special meeting in 48 hours so that we could digest this. I'm aware of the situation, I know what's going on, I'm sure but I would like to read through this more thoroughly since I'm just getting it now.
Yeah, I just got.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
We were working on it, and we didn't even think we'd have it done for this meeting, but she won't get it done.
what if we have recommendations of making modifications or changes? Or, do you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, to try and get this done like in 1 week is challenging,
Yeah.
to say the least. We don't want to get it wrong,
Yeah.
is my point.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're rushing something that we really want to get right this time around. So I don't want to rush something that we really want to get right because, you know, obviously we say, you know, you said the attorney feels that we can enforce what we have, but if we're going to make it stronger, let's make sure that we get it right.
Okay.
I'm not saying we can't
Yeah,
get it right in a week, but I'm just saying, let's make sure we're doing it right.
I mean, I don't know what your process is for your recommendation. Does it go to the manager or Kevin, how do you usually?
No, given that the item is on the agenda already, I believe the commission could entertain a motion to make some sort of recommendation in response to what was presented here tonight.
Just a point of order.
Go ahead.
So you said it's on the agenda. I don't see it on the agenda.
We made a motion.
9B?
Oh, it's,
On the board.
It's 9B.
oh, 9B. Okay, I see. Okay, because this was not the agenda that I got.
The initial agenda that went out Friday afternoon, I want to say 3:30 PM, did not include it. An amended agenda went out later Friday afternoon with this item added.
It went out later, not to us, though.
Yes.
Yes.
I believe it did.
Yes,
Okay,
it came out
I missed it then.
By Cheryl. Yeah,
I mean,
wait.
it didn't come from me, so it was from a different,
Cheryl, yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I did see an email that said, and I kind of breezed past it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. You said there's additional changes in this. Is that one that you mentioned the only one, or are there more?
Oh, no, I mean, this is a draft, obviously, there could be changes, but there's no changes to this right here. That's
So with these things in blue,
Well,
that's all we're gonna see?
that, the blue is the only changes
Okay.
that we want, additional language.
Okay.
Which
wanna
was
clarify.
drafted by the village attorney.
So you're
Right,
really
no.
looking at like, you know, two paragraphs.
Just wanted to clarify that.
I do have a question, though, okay, yeah. If, okay, Strats, for example, obviously the lot gets full, and you have 30 cars sitting on North Avenue waiting to get in. Is there some type of ordinance or law in reference to the, we'll call it an event at the moment, requiring us to have something special for traffic control out there on North Avenue, and it being a state route, for example?
Well, I think that's covered in the language there, that if your event will cover traffic, you know, if it's gonna interfere or, you know, if it's gonna interfere with traffic, then you have to have officers. So, I mean, not to say someone can have an event and traffic is backed up, I mean, that could be expected sometimes, but when the lot is filled with hundreds of people and there's no possibility of anybody coming in, or at least not quickly, you know, I think if we had officers assigned to it, we would waive them out. I mean, there's no room in the lot, sorry, you gotta move on. You gotta keep North Avenue going.
May I ask a question along this line? So, Crazy Pour on Kentucky Derby Day, let's say. What happens there, because there's gotta be cars backed up for that?
They hire officers.
And you guys direct traffic? And then
Two officers
again,
directing traffic and one inside for security.
And they get a permit.
oh yes, I'm sure they do.
If they're officers, they get a permit, and that's what I'm saying, you know, I mean, you know, if we hire officers and there is a backup, well, yeah, I mean, public event, it could happen. But the problem is with his event, is there's no officers waiting people on. I mean, they want people to come to these lots and, you know, the people are just scattering all over it, you know, at least with whatchamacallit you just mentioned.
Crazy Pour.
Yeah, with Crazy Pour, they make arrangements with some of their lots next door to them.
This I've
They have a
noticed.
lot in the back they kind of rent out that they didn't initially own, but they may own it now, but I think initially they didn't. So, you know, at least they're doing something to try to accommodate.
Well, I'm not putting it that way. I want to know what the village does, or the police specifically in that situation with them, as an example.
Yeah. we just do traffic control. We gotta put cones out, even if we gotta shut down a lane for a little while and let traffic go past and put cones up, that's safer than, just a free-for-all where everybody's just driving all over.
Agree.
Yeah, so,
Okay. So that would be the process involved with this, should he get a permit and have these things going.
And then I'm gonna go back to the settlement agreement and release that was signed back in 2020. Okay, is, in that document, is there anything talking about the police officer that has to be there?
no, there was no agreement to hire police.
Okay,
Yeah, the agreement for him was to hire security, to hopefully fix the issue that way, which, that helps, but it's
Okay.
not helping his neighboring businesses. And at the time when that agreement was put in place, from what I remember, he had an attorney, and his attorney said, we're not responsible for all the businesses owned. Well, I mean, it's your event, and it's gonna affect all other businesses, but that's where it all goes back to the permit again. If there was a permit, that could be spelled out, that, hey, in order to have the event, you have to follow these rules. So that was never approached back then, because the thought process at that time was that we could not make him get a permit under a different attorney, but now they seem to think that we could. But we insisted on, hey, give us some better language, so if it does go to hearing or even the circuit court, we have good language to show exactly what is required.
by amending the ordinance, does that nullify this agreement?
Well, to be honest with you, that agreement is 4 years old. And if you notice on there, there's really no expiration date, but most legal agreements don't go forever. So at this point, and that was also done during COVID. So some of the restrictions in there, I believe, were even related to COVID a little bit. I don't think that's even valid.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot in reference to it. What I'm really leading into is, do we need to have some other languages in this ordinance to possibly tying in with this agreement? Or does this stand alone and you can use this?
I would say keep it standalone, because all those things he needs to follow, you wouldn't want to put that on anybody that wants to have an event. I mean, those requirements were given in for his type of event. It was specifically spelled out what he needs to do for this event.
Okay.
So if we were to put that in an ordinance now, that would be subject to review for anybody.
No, what I'm really getting to the point is, if you got this and you're saying this is a special event, does this nullify this agreement, saying that now we're underneath the special events permit and
Yeah.
whatever is in this ordinance for the special,
Moving forward, we would use the new amended ordinance. We would not follow that old agreement. We've talked about coming up with a new agreement and doing a new abatement notice, but that's something the attorney could work on. It's not, it involves the ordinances because it names a lot of them in the agreement, but that would be separate from a permit process.
okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
All right, and kind of one of my last questions here, Joe, is, does this, since this was just, we'll say, hot off the press, okay, you just saw it an hour ago or so,
Yeah.
does this have all the language that the police department would like to have in there, or do you see some things like, hey, we would like to have this, you need to talk to the attorney to, that's, I just don't want to push things forward and then sit there and say, well, you never mentioned that, or is the attorney saying, hey, I might come up with some other stuff, and this is a draft?
Yeah. Well, there are some other ideas that we that involves our nuisance ordinance. We're possibly adding some stuff there and also adding some stuff on the parking enforcement side. But to be honest, to lump all that in one thing, it's gonna be pretty difficult to do. I think is a good start let's get the permit fixed. And then we could reference to the permitting process. And then we did add though the part about keeping the a clear path for an ambulance or fire truck. But that's also part of the permitting process. What other ideas we have as far as citing, vehicles that are parking these lots? I think we need to maybe touch up on some of those ordinances. I mean, I'll be honest, there's some of those ordinances we're not enforcing right now because we think there's some legal issues with the way they're worded. But to get in that whole discussion right now is just gonna prolong everything. I mean, I don't even know that we're even gonna ask to change those things. So really, we think right now, these amendments that are in here will make a difference. And if he does hire officers, it's gonna make a huge difference. If he doesn't, then we're gonna have to go to citation routes and all that and deal with it at the hearings. But as we move forward, we'll see what happens. Another agreement will get come out of it.
Okay, so the police department's pretty confident that you feel good with this, if it's been, okay. Joe?
Yeah, to Tricia's point, the one thing I'm missing out of this is if he doesn't get a permit, he doesn't have to cover the cost of the officers. We're now forced to, in an unplanned fashion, provide. And I think you make a good point on the math where why not roll the dice? Because even if they find him the max amount, he's not going to lose anything. He may even end up ahead. So I'd like to see something where any cost we incur can be added to that hearing officer's fine. So if we have to dedicate 4 officers for 4 hours, hand him a $1,600 bill on top of the fine.
So we talked to our own attorney about this, and also we brought it with Melissa. The issue that we're running into is the officers are being paid to provide a service out there. And he, including everybody else, is paying taxes for the officers that are out there. And they don't think it would be, they're not sure it would be legal to do that. But if he doesn't obey the permit process, or if he applies for a permit and doesn't obey what the permit rules are, and he doesn't hire the officers, I mean, the village may be able to bill him and see what happens from there. But as far as putting that part in the ordinance, I don't think they want to go that direction. They don't want to, I mean, we're not a home rule community either, so we're kind of restricted to what state law and, whatever rules there are as far as not being home rule. But there's a possibility it may happen, but first we got to get this in place before we can even do it. And who knows, if we go that route and we bill it and we revisit with the attorneys, hey, he didn't apply for the permit, we told him he needed a permit, we had to send 5 officers there for 4 hours. He didn't do this, we have a process, can we bill him? This is what the officers cost. Send him a bill, and if he doesn't pay it, well, then it comes down, can we put a lien? On
Various
the
collection processes.
Or collection agency, and from there, we would have to discover, what they can do.
I have one last question that might lead into what you're talking about, Joe. Okay, how many times can he break the rules before something, can he just continuously break the rules, and after the 20th one, is there any consequences from that? Do we have anything in place?
We get fined for every day he has the event, as long as it's in violation of the code, so. We have written him citations. There is a part in here about events having, where traffic is backed up and stuff. He has been cited for that in the past. And that's how the $2,000 fine came about, with citations we wrote. But we kind of worked around everything except for the permit. The permit's the easiest for us to enforce, because it's either you have one or you don't. Initially it came up, well, how many people, some towns have these permits, 200 people or 300 people. Well, who's gonna go count them? You look at the videos, you can tell it's hundreds. if not well over 1,000. So we think what we have here is a good start. Maybe in a month after this is approved, if it's approved, we might be back here asking for more. But I think taking it step by step and getting this problem fixed first is the best option.
Yes, Vicky.
Oh, sure. So I think kind of where I'm getting tripped up, and I'll go back to my verbiage, sorry. I work event, I do events. So I think what I'm looking at is when I sit there and say, special event means any event. So you're defining a special event with an event. So I think where you probably need to start, because he keeps saying he doesn't have events. So I think you need to define the special event in a different way. I think you need to sit there and say there are different ways to define an event, you know, looking at an occurrence, an experience, a situation, by learning to define it in some other way to get around, because he's going to continually say, I'm not holding an event. You know, looking at something to where you are doing it in a different way. I mean, there's various different ways to look at something that happens, especially something unusual that's happening. You know, looking at that type of verbiage to where he can't really get it out. I mean, I just looked it up really quickly, you know, gathering of occasion where people come together for the purpose of socializing, interacting, and, you know, interaction, engaging, and sharing activities. That's what they're doing. I mean, you kind of have to say, you know, it's like you're saying this is what we have to define what a special event is, because he's saying he's not holding an event.
I think the way the village is looking at, though, when you look at the first page, when you look at the current language that's in there, they're looking at any event that's going to require, you know, the public sound system, or portable toilets, or raffles, or,
Right.
you know.
But you still need to define event, because he's saying he's not having an event. But if you look at what he's doing, he has all these people who are gathering and socializing, and an occurrence and an experience and so forth. That's an event.
I don't think he actually relies on the idea that he's not holding an event, because that's a laughable statement. The problem isn't so much that he's holding an event, that it's more that he's holding an event that ends up so big.
Right.
And I know you've seen it, but for the rest of the board members,
You
I
haven't
don't
seen
know
it.
how many of you watch these videos. I've been to these things, and there's literally 400, 500 cars spread, not just in his lot, because his lot can only hold like about 100, but all of Supreme Lobster's lot is filled up. Some of Target's lot, some of North Park Mall, all these, and all the smaller businesses in the area, they'll have cars in all these lots too. And we're asking 4 police officers maybe, because that's all we have on duty, because that's all we have, to dedicate their time amongst 5 or 6 different lots. And this really comes down to an issue, a big issue of safety. Because if you watch these kids, you'll see hundreds of kids lined up on the North Avenue median, on the parkways, and in the meantime, you've got other kids that are doing fishtails down North Avenue. If one of those kids loses control, he's gonna wipe out 20 teenagers. So this is more than just being a little bit nuisance or a little bit annoying. And my bigger concern beyond this is down the road, when he's long gone or whatever, how are we gonna deal with these kind of problems going forward, should these kids decide to go somewhere else? Maybe they go down by Sonic on Roosevelt Road, or Mickey's on St. Charles.
Right.
Eh,
I think-
Deputy Chief, we're not trying to pick on you.
I know.
We're little,
What do we do for the future?
yeah.
I want to cover the
And
bases for the future.
I'm kind of agreeing with Vicky and stuff, because I think special events is a real broad term. And, you know, you sit there and talk about porta potties being on the site. Does he really need them if he's got a restaurant and has, yeah, I mean, this is, I can see him going through, okay, I had that covered, I have this covered, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, although Schwartz may be the catalyst for designing this kind of an ordinance, this isn't only for him. So that's why it-
No, I'm just saying in reference to it, I agree. To be honest with you, okay, without really reading it and having an attorney telling me what's going on and everything else, et cetera, the big thing that I have is, I don't know what special event really means. And I just think there should be a definition on that part in reference to it, so that it can be more defined and not just strats, but, you know, what makes the difference between crazy horse or whatever?
Crazy poor?
Okay, yeah. How can you tie, he can sit there and say, well, you know, vice versa, I mean, the other opposite, the other way is, he's getting away with it all the time, I'm gonna stop doing it. There's no,
Right.
okay. So I'm more worried if the attorney should look at
A better definition.
a better definition of special events. And I'm just throwing that out, and I'm not trying to pick on it, but that's it. Bob, you had your hand up first.
So, the special event permit, I mean, are we envisioning having him get a special event permit for every single weekend going forward from now until
Ever.
it gets cold? I mean, that seems, pardon me?
Even the cold doesn't seem as.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but you said somewhere in
The
there
other,
talk-
my other thought is, we have
I just wonder if he has them.
limits in, you know, this building or this room can, you know, an occupancy level. And I should know the answer to this question, but I don't. Is there an occupancy level for a parking lot?
No.
Well, the attorney, she did have a paragraph in here, in a sentence, that we looked at a lot of other towns, and I'll be honest, most towns don't apply every single event, because there's too many different things. But some of the towns just call it a mass gathering event, and they put a number on it, anything over 200, 300, 400. So, I mean, the number the attorney came up with was 200. We kind of stepped away from that for now, and this is a draft. We could put in there, any event over 200 people, but, I mean, you want to stay away from, like you mentioned, maybe you got 200 people coming to a graduation party.
Or quite frankly, North School has 400 students. So anything that happens at North School that's available to all of the children who attend the school could be considered a mass gathering of over 200 people.
Well, that's kind of why but that's where the other language comes in. Your gathering has to affect
Right.
all those other things. So if you have a gathering that is handled on your property or on a school property, then you don't need a permit, It's just like when the Odeon was here, they had events every week, they're not required to have a permit because they're capable of doing them. So that's where that language comes in.
So I've seen videos of something like this in the city of Chicago, where kids, younger adults take over intersections and they're doing donuts and and I'm just wondering, how does the city of Chicago, how do they disperse those kinds of gatherings?
Well,
Or do they?
There's different groups out there. The groups you're talking about in the city, a lot of them are criminal groups. I mean, a lot of them, we've had them come out before, and, a lot of those cars are stolen, and they're not stopping for the officers, and Lombard had a mass gathering car show event over by LA Fitness in that big parking lot there. They had it, last year they had it 2 weeks, or I think it was 2 weeks in a row, they took over that lot, and it was completely Roosevelt Road. Well, you may remember, we had to shut all the businesses down because they were looting the businesses. So,
I would also say, Bob, that one of the channels on YouTube that has videos of Strats, especially Saturday night's event, Saturday, when I looked down further into some of his other videos, he had a number of videos of just those kind of things that he had gone to as well. So we're dealing with some of the same people that are doing those kind of things where you see them in the city doing donuts and intersections and just wreaking havoc. I'm not suggesting that they're all like that, but there is an element that is shared between the two.
yeah, I mean, when those groups come in, it's a whole different, it's a major problem.
Yeah.
So like I said, the ones in Lombard, it was later at night, they finally were able to disperse the crowd, and they were going into all the stores and stealing everything. They had to shut down we asked all the stores on Roosevelt to shut down early, just to prevent people from going and stealing. That's, I mean, that's not the every weekend thing. I mean, those groups come, they go, and it just kind of is what it is. We can't control that. Strat can't control that. None of us here can control that. So, but the Strats people, you know, the kids, the majority of the kids that are going there are not there to cause a problem, even though they might be racing. You know, the criminal elements were not there other than traffic violations, for the most part.
I'm going to bring it to everybody's attention in reference to defining special events. And actually on page 1 at the bottom, the last paragraph, it talks about special events. Special events means any event, and it goes on and describes, and then you see some additional wording. And if you read through that whole paragraph, I think somewhat answers a lot of the questions that is being brought up at the moment. Right,
It continues on with barricades,
exactly.
service of police or fire, you know.
I think sometimes it's about what you need to use for those special events, and not necessarily why you're having the special event. So I think why you're having the special event, now, since why you're having the special event, now these are the things you need to have
Yeah.
for the special event. So I think the why now generates the needs. So it's kind of like you have to define why you're having it.
answers the questions
down here.
Those questions are.
And
Right, but I'm saying that's still that you need to have it in here. I'm just, cover your bases,
Well,
in my opinion.
this kind of lays out, so this isn't about that, this is about,
What you need to have, an event, you still have to define what it is.
no, this is the definition. You're misreading it, I think. This is the definition.
It's not gonna require parking, so you know that it's not.
Will the result in or require the use of parking or standing vehicles? That's not a directive, this is one of the things that define it as an event.
I think you understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
I still think that's still what you are, it's the result of why you're still having it. Why you're having it. You are socializing, you're engaging, it's in currents, it's doing what it is you have to define.
To me, this makes sense. To me, this is clear that it's saying that it doesn't matter why the people are there, and it doesn't matter how many people are there. It only matters if you are blocking the public way, or you need to use barricades, or if you rented a porta potty, or if you need off-site parking, if you need any of these additional things, then whatever it is you're doing, no matter how you've defined it personally, we are defining it as a special event, right? If you need this, or this, then it's a special event, regardless of what you're calling it. I feel like that's pretty clear.
Deputy Chief,
Yeah, right, like if it,
I'm thinking we should see
yeah,
some of this
a single
video
one of these.
that
if it
we
requi-
have.
If a single one of these criteria is met,
It's
then
on
it
that
is an
one, it's on the
event.
browser, just as a warning, I guess. There is some profanity in it, so
Oh, we're gonna watch the video.
mention that before it is played.
No, but those are the laws of the cities that I go to.
Do you want?
Sergeant?
When I use it for the center or anything else like that.
That's the video I sent you.
Do you want? Yeah. Leave that, maybe that would work.
Pulling up to Strats, and as you guys can see, it is packed. There are people all in the median. There's people on this side, and Strats is all the way on that side. We're about to get up on it. It's crazy packed tonight. There's cars like literally a quarter mile down at Target, packing the whole lot. I did not drive the Mustang today. We are in the boats. As we walk up here to the madness, that's ready to take somebody's foot. There's cars parked all over. I've never seen it like this before. There's literally in the grass. Maybe out here. Tell you guys it's March 30th today, 2024. March 30th. I've really never seen Strat this fast. just a portion.
Right there. All right, you see all those kids that are sitting on the median in the middle?
As we walk
That's
along
what
the
I was
entrance
talking
here,
about. I was talking about. Yeah, that's okay. I was just wanted to point that part out.
we're gonna make our way to the back where a lot more cars are parked. Some people over there, watch everybody go through. I just took a little quick walk around here. I was in the area, and I'm like, you know what, I might as well. I was in the area, I passed my strap, I'm like, holy shit. We got the camera, show you guys a little bit what's going on over here. Let me know when you're ready, 4 hours.
As you guys can see, there's no way emergency vehicles are getting through. So that sentence we added, it's exactly what we're talking about.
Right.
Was that a security car parked in front of the
Yeah,
place?
security.
Okay.
They got it decked out nice looking. And,
Does it have any real effect?
No,
A lot of
that's
trees
why I
back
asked.
there. It looks different. Haven't been over here in a minute. Just do a quick walkthrough of what's back here. Got a lot of nice buildings.
The rules say no revving motors.
There's gonna be a lot of people out.
Right.
You know, it's easy to get outside. It's been very cold out for a minute. Next week is gonna be really hot. Straight sunshine, so I can only imagine next week is gonna be packed for sure again. We got some old schools. Nothing too much crazy back here yet, just yet. A couple of cars. Making our way around here to get over to the front. Nothing too spicy yet, but there's like three other parking lots completely filled with other cars, trucks. That's just over there. Those pretty built. Got some BMWs, she's badass. We make our way up to the front. So it's like straight 85. Pretty sure that's why that was up there. I knew I'd find somebody here. I knew I'd find somebody. What's going on? Yes, sir. Right now.
So kind of as we're watching this, it's kind of like, I'd like to know, like, as you're seeing this, with the police officer presence, what would be done differently? As you're, I'm just kind of curious, you know, I mean, just so we know, like, as you see this.
Yeah. Well, we would station where that security car is. We probably put an officer up front there. So when the lot does get packed, we just wave people on.
Okay,
Also, you're gonna see it here in a second, all those people in the medians, we're not gonna allow that.
okay, right.
And all the people in the parkway up to the curb are not gonna allow it. So, we would also require the fencing up, which hopefully would keep people about 10 feet away from the street, which was being done, a couple of years ago. Also, so for example, you're gonna see it coming up with the business that all these people are on. They call us every week and they don't want their people on the business because they leave beer bottles and broken stuff. And so you can't, how you gonna, it's always Elmer's Auto Care right there, I think, yeah. So, I basically have to tell them, there's nothing I can do for you because there's so many people out there. I mean, I can go over and clear them out for, a minute, but I mean, as soon as we go, because they border each other, so.
Right.
So officer could be there for that, so it's just more of having a constant, someone there enforcing the rules on an ongoing basis, so. There's no loopholes to, and maybe 2 officers not enough, maybe he gets a permit, we hired 2 officers and we realize, I really didn't put much of a dent in it, maybe you need 4 officers. Or maybe he needs to hire more security and then help afford to 2 officers, whatever it might be. I mean, I think a good start is to say 2 officers. I mean, that's what, Crazy Port hires 2 for traffic and then 1 for inside. So he's got his security inside, okay, well, then 2 officers should be a good start. See where it goes.
I wasn't sure if I saw that in there. Does the ordinance say 2 officers?
No, it's discretionary.
That's what I was
So
saying.
every time someone applies for a permit anywhere in town, it gets emailed to us, and then we take a look at it and say, hey, our recommendation is 1 officer, 2 officers, whatever it might be.
Okay.
So with respect to the people that are on the median, that's obviously, if there's hundreds of people loitering on the median, that's obviously dangerous. And I think we may have mentioned this before. I saw a sign on Westmore that cited a specific ordinance, I think it's for Oak Brook Terrace, that said, it was mainly addressed to address the panhandler issue, but saying you cannot loiter or linger
Yeah,
on a median.
but it's just a sign.
It's what?
It's just
It's just a sign.
That's all it
no
is.
gravity to it.
We can't,
Just a suggestion.
panhandlers are free to do their panhandling that we can't enforce anything with panhandling.
I think I need to take a picture of that sign because
Yeah.
my recollection is that references an ordinance. I may be wrong.
There may
Yeah,
very
I
well
know that-
be an ordinance, but there is Supreme
Yeah.
Court
Yeah,
cases that
yeah.
have dealt with this.
Yeah, I know Oak Brook, I don't know how far down you're talking, I know Oak Brook passed an ordinance, but Downers Grove passed the same ordinance and got sued and lost.
They what?
They got sued on their old panhandling ordinance out of Downers Grove. If you search in Google Downers Grove panhandling ordinance, it'll come up, or just put lawsuit, it'll come up.
Yeah.
So they lost, and then Oak Brook came up with the same ordinance.
And they're fine.
And so, until someone challenges it, but,
Right.
I mean, obviously, every ticket you write there, you have to be reimbursed, and,
Yeah.
and we don't wanna, definitely have that, but yeah, being the median, and we're gonna research that a little more, but if there's officers there though, I mean, one, we're not gonna let people park at Supreme Lobster, so that problem kinda, the one officer's in his lot, and the other officer's kinda managing the surrounding area, is hopefully gonna be waving those people off, maybe we'll put some cones up or some barricades, so, because a lot of those people in the middle, they're coming from the Supreme Lobster side, and they're just not going all the way over because that side's already filled up.
I thought we enlisted the help of those businesses where we prohibited parking in those lots.
Yeah, we did,
Okay,
there's signs up, but,
okay.
yeah.
Well, the village can't enforce that. That has to be privately taken care of, doesn't it?
Well, we have an agreement with the owners of those properties to enforce ordinances and laws on their property. So we actually can write parking tickets and traffic violations on the lots that agreed to do it. Strata's not one of them, but pretty much all the lots around there, Target, all the big lots have given us agreements.
Right hand,
So actually, we could write tickets on that. But, like I said, we write the tickets, we leave,
Westmore,
without having someone there the
southbound.
entire event. I mean, you can't manage it. As soon as we leave, 500 cars are pulling in. So,
It's right, the
And
sign's right on the median.
if you get back to getting on the street again, I think part of this video shows a lot of action on the street and you guys trying to shut it down and the amount of cars that are still flying around
Maybe a sign there, right?
in reference to it.
hopefully,
I mean, there's like 6 or 7 police cars.
They get support ever since, literally from the start.
I'll take a photo
And
tomorrow.
now you got yourself a what? Ferrari.
Right there.
You guys got a fucking Ferrari now, man. He's got a fucking Ferrari. Ferrari, go. Where's your car? Huh? Where's your car? I got a Hellcat, bro. You got a Hellcat? Yeah. Man, this motherfucker got a Hellcat. I saw you burning out. You going crazy? Yes, sir. Where's your car? They stay tuned for the Instagram and y'all not still there. Or maybe Snapchat too. Yes, I'm sorry. I drove the Volkswagen today. I got you. Put it right there. You know the deal. All right. After you make a wing, back on the side. All right. Once again, that's it. seen here at Shreks. Start of the season. Everybody's got the itch. I'm gonna catch a couple of cars driving by on the road doing a couple of fucking bullshit. But the cops are out there too, so.
Saturday, okay. So Saturday before the Easter holiday.
No, I think that's plain.
Hell of people walking around.
I think we got the point. Yeah, it's.
I think that pretty much describes the whole situation out there. I mean,
And who is the guy in the bullhorn? Was that their security?
I don't know.
No, that's just the
No,
guy
that's the guy.
that did the video.
No, there was a guy in a bullhorn. There was a guy in a bullhorn.
I
blow,
didn't look at the security, I don't.
no,
He had a hoodie on and a,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Couldn't understand a word he said either.
He was trying to decide.
I thought it was a different language at first.
He was trying to decide everybody, tell him not to leave, when we told him to leave.
Oh.
So he was one of the attendees there.
Did he get arrested?
Could you have arrested him?
No.
Okay.
I had a quick question. Were there any arrests or any cars towed away or anything from this event, or mainly we're just trying to peaceably
But that
disperse it?
Multiple traffic stop citations.
Yeah, but no arrests. On other nights, there has been arrests. But yeah, remember, if we arrest somebody, now 2 cars.
Yeah, you're right.
2 cars down there, or 3 cars, depending on what we have. Sometimes we have a little more, sometimes we.
Can you just put like an old petty right in
The incident from, a few weekends ago, the whole ship was down. So aside from one Villa Park unit, every other unit out there was from a different agency. So we had one Villa Park officer and everybody else was from a different agency.
Was that also the case when we had that fatality at Joyce and North Avenue? Didn't Strats also have something going on that night and you guys had to leave them on their own?
That was earlier in the day, but yeah, same thing, Friday, Saturday, so it's every Friday, Saturday.
What time of day do they start this at Stratz?
7, they start showing up.
Yeah. By 8:39, it's really the fires. Especially in the summer, when the summer comes. When it's warmer, it starts to get later, 10 o'clock, it starts getting even busier.
Okay,
What do we want to do?
yeah, exactly. No, I don't have any more questions. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Yes, Bob?
So, I'm all for giving the police all the tools they need to address this. I mean, this seems almost like an impossible situation with all those people. Having said that, I would like more time to digest this. I mean, it seems reasonable to me, but my suggestion would be to give us time to read through this completely and then maybe have a special meeting on Friday, if we can get a quorum, so that we can provide
So with regard to the guidelines for a special meeting, my understanding is it would still require the 48-hour posting, which for a meeting on Friday would obviously be tomorrow at some time. That also puts things in a spot as far as the board meeting on Monday night, in that you're now
right.
probably not going to be able to make the Monday board meeting with a Friday traffic and safety special meeting. Just a couple things to digest.
Well, on the other hand, it's been going on for 15 years, so,
Go forward with this and then just keep open-ended.
Well, the way I look at it, I believe, obviously, our police department, our village manager, I don't know if, has the village board seen any of this at the moment, Deputy Chief?
They haven't seen this draft.
there's a memo dated March 25th that went to the board.
Okay.
This draft of the ordinance we just got.
This was actually discussed at the March 25th board meeting, and they referred it to us specifically for this meeting because they want to address it again next Monday's meeting.
Okay. And, yes, Vicki?
Can I address Kevin?
Yes?
No, that Kevin.
Yes.
Oh, Kevin, question for the board, with the board, I know you guys want to get this done on the 8th, but again, as I mentioned, do we want to do it right, or do we want to get it done quick?
See, you bring up a great valid point, and usually when I make my decisions on the board, I try to do the same thing. But one of the things that we kind of have at our disposal with local government is that on the board, we see ordinances all the time. We make variations, we change them, we create ordinances, and it's not really a complicated or hard process to do. So if tonight you make a recommendation to the board that what you see in here is good, what I would recommend doing then is continuing this conversation in your future commission meetings, because we as a board can always change specifics in this as well. Regarding about defining what a special event is, we can always change that definition at any time. It's just a process that has to go through. Basically, a recommendation from the commission back to the board to change specific parts of this. We all saw the video. My major concern is the safety. This has been going on for 15 years, and these events are steadily getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I've got young kids. You know, I know that there are people out there that, you know, first of all, I want to say that what you are doing up here as a commission is a valuable asset to our community. I know you are doing it on your own free time and accord, which is amazing. You are a completely valuable asset to us as a board and this community. And this is what it's about. It is about tackling these issues head on like this. But when you might not think this, but the decisions that you make on this commission ultimately have the potential to save lives, even. And I know it's a time crunch, but I'm just saying that we can change these anytime. I think the most important thing, though, is like you said, like you had mentioned, giving our police department the ability and the tools to do their job right now. I still think that this is a topic that can continue to be talked about in every meeting that you have. So that way, in those conversations, if you decide, yes, we want to define what special event means, you can do that, and we can always change that. I think the delay here, though, is the hard thing, is that we want to be able to give our police department the resources to make these decisions, and also at the same time keep our community safe. But as a board, this is what we do. We look at ordinances all the time. If you recommend something, we consider that up there, and we could change an ordinance at any time. I think from what I have seen here too, I don't think, and I'm only speaking for myself, but I don't see anything in here that really raises a red flag. I think I would be happy with this if I saw this in being in favor of this. But also, being, again, part of this commission, is that's the power that we give you, is to be able to give us a recommendation at any time. And if next week you said, hey, listen, we approve this tonight, or the board approves it on Monday, and the following weekend, Strats has another event and something happens where we need to change this, we absolutely can. These are supposed to be able to be something that we can work with. Laws, ordinances change all the time. So you have that authority to give those recommendations to us as a board. I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Yes, I understand where you're coming from, totally, okay? As our board, or as our commission here, we look at this, the way I'm looking at this is an ordinance that's being amended by our village attorney under the blue locations. And basically, if you really look at this for a second, if we take, I mean, we took an hour and a half talking about this and everything else, but if we really want to, we should take a look at each of the blue areas and how that's being amended, and we should be able to come up with a decision, because it's just an amendment to an ordinance that's already out there. So they're putting more wording in there by our attorney, okay, to help the police department out legally in reference to it, and making them hopefully get to the permits. So the way I'm looking at it is, if we take 15 minutes right now and just go over it, we possibly could have a decision here.
So you're pushing for a decision tonight.
I'm pushing for a decision tonight.
Now, I'd just like to bring up one point before we go further with that.
Yes.
I have read through this.
Okay?
And I see nothing here that, like as you say, it is amendments. One of our concerns here, when we make recommendations, is based on what's legal, that, as far as we know. Usually we get an outside source to say something called a warrant study or something like that to make sure that. And in my looking at this as an ordinary person, I don't see anything that would be illegal in this, or without, or that is not in our purview to recommend. So I agree with you. I think we should look further on this. I'll read it over again, but I read it at the beginning of the meeting.
Yes, Bob?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this ordinance as amended, presented to us tonight.
Okay.
Just a point of order, based on the commission's,
Our authority is not to do that.
it would need to be a motion to
A
recommend to the village board.
Yeah, I
adoption of
misspoke.
this
A recommendation.
I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, right. We're recommending. We're an advisory body. I completely understand that. So my recommendation is that we provide a recommendation to the village board for approval of this ordinance as amended.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
Okay.
Cuthbertson, I would recommend a roll call.
Yes, I totally agree. So we're gonna have a roll call on, approving the recommendation to, either saying, yay or nay.
Yes, correct. A yes vote recommends that the village board adopt this draft ordinance as amended.
Okay, before we go further, does anybody else need to look at this a little bit closer and look at the blue areas that have been highlighted as being added? Trish?
I'm good. I got a copy on Friday.
Okay,
Yesterday, today, I got a copy of this in my email and I read it.
okay, so, Jack? Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, so, Bob, did we have a second for Bob's?
We did. Cuthbertson seconded.
Okay, all right, so let's individually go down.
Cuthbertson,
Yes.
Di Tomaso,
Yes.
Flaskamp,
No,
Little,
Yes.
Carl Timmerman,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes,
Chairperson Pinkos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got everybody.
Okay. Yes. So we,
Motion carries.
yeah. So we only have one nay, the rest of them are yeses. Okay, so we'll push this on as a recommendation to the board. Okay, in reference to it. At that point, right now, I don't see any need to, I don't see anything pending that we really need to talk about in reference to tonight's meeting for the other items that are on the, well, let's just go through this really simply. Let's get down to the approval of minutes and then, yeah. So if we follow through, we did the amendments of the agenda. Next thing is public comments on agenda items, and we have nobody here for a comment. And public comments on non-agenda items, trustee, yes, go ahead.
Trustee Patrick.
I will make this quick. I know it's a long night, but again, I just want to reiterate and thank you for what you do for our community. I know, again, that this is of your own, on your own free time, and you're doing this to better our community. I really do appreciate that. And as an advisory commission, our doors as trustees, as board members, are always open, at least for mine. And you can always come to us and talk to us about this. Part of progress is having that open dialogue and that communication, and that's what we're doing here, is to get over these roadblocks and these humps, so that way we can come up with a good solution together. I really appreciate your time and your commitment to our village. I really do. And I suggest and I recommend that this commission in particular continue to discuss this, continue to bring this up to our attention. If you have discussions that lead into further recommendations, please, we need those. The board, it thrives off of these recommendations that we get to you. You're a valuable asset to us because you do some of the work that we can't do or don't have the time to do these discussions. So you're doing it for us, and it is a valuable, valuable thing that you're doing. So I really appreciate it. And please, our doors are always open. Let's open up this dialogue and find solutions to these problems together. Thank you.
Trustee.
Thanks.
Okay. Presentation on the bike pedestrian transit subcommittee. Can we pass that, or do you need anything important to say about this?
I'll just mention a few things that are happening. We do have some events coming up in May.
Okay.
And I want to clarify some of those. I mentioned May 8th, we'll be assisting with Bike and Walk to School Day at North School. On May 9th, and I wasn't clear when I mentioned this last month, there will be a movie shown at the Villa Park Library. It's called The Engine Inside, and it's a original movie. It's about bicycling, and it's free to the public. So May 9th at 6:30. May 15th, we'll be having a Ride of Silence, which is to commemorate the loss of life of bicyclists. In 2021, there were 966 bicycle fatalities in the United States. 966. It's going up, not going down. So that's about it. We talked about the bike-friendly community application and where we need to improve, and how there's items in the bike and pedestrian plan that are mesh with what is in the bike-friendly community application recommendations, and we're going to talk about that further. And essentially, I'm skipping over some things, but that's my report.
Okay, thank you. That helps. And then I just want to get to approval of the minutes of March 5th. Has everybody looked through those minutes?
And I make a motion to approve.
Di Tomaso,
Okay, do we have a second?
Flaskamp.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? There is none. Okay, with all of that, I believe the rest of our agenda can be postponed and talked about at our next meeting.
If I may,
Yes.
I would like us to revisit at our next meeting the Strat situation. The board may very well have everything instituted next week, and maybe we can get a report from the police department as to how things are moving, and if in the meantime, any of us come up with some ideas for additions or changes, we can bring it up then and consider it at that point and send it on to the board later.
Sergeant, can you just do a simple report for next month for us on that?
Sure, that should be.
Okay. Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, so.
Yeah, I mean, we should have a pretty good idea what's going on and if this is really working or not. So, it'd be very interesting.
Have we assigned this a number?
Technically, no. So if the commission would like, we can add it as an actual numbered agenda item for
Okay.
going forward.
All right, and what would be our next number? Do you have that in?
899?
899. And we'll leave it on as old business now. Okay. So with that, I'm basically skipping over and just gonna, yes, Bob?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on 9B. I don't think we've tabled this item. I don't think we can summarily say we're not going to cover it if it's on the agenda.
You mean
We
9A?
we did. Oh, you may have walked in after.
Excuse me, 9A, 9A, I beg your pardon, 9A.
I'm sorry, you lost me there.
So 9A is
9A.
item 898, drive like your kids live here sign.
Right.
So if it's on the agenda, I think if there's not a motion to say we're going to set this aside or table it to a future meeting, we can discuss it.
I'm in favor of tabling it.
I'll make that.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay, so
It
we need a
hasn't been
motion.
tabled.
You need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Carl Timmerman?
Yes.
I will second that.
Little?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
Do we need to do a roll call?
Let's do a roll call.
All right. Cuthbertson,
Yes.
D. Tomaso,
Yes.
Blaskamp,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Carl Timmerman,
Yes.
Wagner.
No.
Chairman Picos.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Okay. Do we want to go through commissioner's comments?
I believe to Bob's point, you do have to at least go through those items.
Okay, commissioner comments. We'll start over with Trish.
I have no comments today.
Carl,
None.
Jack,
None.
Bob,
I have no comments.
Vicky,
None?
Joe.
Are you sure, Joe? Are you sure?
I just want to watch them all.
Okay.
Pause for a moment.
Chairperson has no comments. Kevin, do you have any comments?
I hate to break the trend here, but I did want to say welcome, Tricia.
Thank you.
I have nothing further.
I did cover that in the beginning, too.
You did.
Good one to start on.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I second. I'll do that.
Was there already a motion?
Oh, I'll motion to adjourn.
Blaskamp and D. Tomaso with the seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
We are
Okay,
adjourned.
we are adjourned.